Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Mystery Channel. Tonight, we'll be wandering into one of the oldest and most captivating mysteries of our time. For millennia, humans have stood in awe at these engineering marvels. These vast monuments have been studied for thousands of years, and still, they hold many secrets. How were they built with such precision, such scale? Why do their passages, chambers, and hidden spaces still leave experts puzzled? And what might still be waiting inside, sealed behind stone, and never seen by modern eyes? Because the more closely we look, the stranger and deeper the mysteries become. Lost rivers, buried boats, and hidden voids are just the beginning. The pyramids are not just ancient tombs. They are a landscape of puzzles, hidden clues, complex symbols, and enduring questions. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one curious soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. And as you notice your mind, begin to gently unwind. Join me as we explore this ancient wonder together. Let's begin. Nobody can fully explain how the Great Pyramid was built. Even now, that sentence lands with real force. This was the tallest structure on Earth for thousands of years, raised from millions of stone blocks with a level of order that still unsettles modern confidence. Scholars have proposed straight ramps, spiraling ramps, internal ramps, sledges on wet sand, levering systems, and combinations of all of them. Each idea explains something, yet none explains everything. That is what keeps the mystery alive. Granite was brought from far to the south. Heavy limestone was quarried, shaped, hauled, and set with astonishing discipline. And all this was done without iron tools, engines, or cranes. The deeper you look, the stranger the achievement becomes. The puzzle is not just how strength moved stone. It is how planning, labor, measurement, timing, and belief came together so completely that one monument still makes the modern world feel uncertain about the limits of the ancient one. The pyramids still align with the sky in unsettling ways. That is one reason they never feel like mere heaps of old stone. Their builders seem to have cared not only about earth and weight, but also about direction, rising stars, and the ordered movements above. Some passages have long been linked to celestial targets. Some researchers connect them with stars that mattered to royal ideas of death and renewal. Others think the wider layout on the plateau hints at a sky-based design, though that remains debated. What makes this so gripping is not just the claim, but the precision behind it. These monuments were laid out with such care that the heavens seem invited into the architecture. And once you notice that possibility, the pyramids begin to feel less like tombs and more like instruments of connection. They stand between sand and sky, fixed in stone, while quietly asking whether the ancient Egyptians were building for the dead, for the gods, or for the stars themselves. The Great Pyramid was once brighter than anyone alive has seen. Today, people picture weathered stone, broken edges, and a desert color that feels ancient and severe. But in its prime, the monument may have looked almost unreal. Its outer casing was made of fine white limestone, polished enough to catch the sun with startling brilliance. Seen from a distance, it may have glowed over the plateau, like something sharpened from light itself. That lost skin changes the whole emotional picture. We are used to ruins. Ancient visitors may have seen something dazzling, smooth, and almost impossible in its perfection. The effect would have been strongest at sunrise and sunset, when the surface could turn radiant against the desert sky. And then there was the summit, likely crowned in a way that made the whole shape feel complete. Most of that finish is gone now, stripped away by time and reuse. Yet the vanished brightness remains one of the most powerful clues that these monuments were built to overwhelm the eye as much as the mind. Hidden chambers may still rest inside the stone, untouched. That possibility is not fantasy. It is one of the most exciting questions still hanging inside the Great Pyramid today. Modern scans have already revealed a large unexplained void, and that discovery alone was enough to send a chill through archaeology. After centuries of searching, measuring, tunneling, and arguing, the pyramid may still be keeping whole spaces secret. No one yet knows exactly what that void is. It could be a relieving space, a construction feature, a corridor, or something nobody predicted. And that is the thrill of it. The greatest of the pyramids may not be a finished story at all. It may still contain sealed architecture that no living person has entered. Imagine that for a moment. Inside one of the most studied buildings on Earth, there may be rooms, passages, or carefully planned emptiness that have remained silent since the age of Khufu. Few mysteries feel so close, so physical, and yet so unreachable. The oldest pyramid began as a bold experiment in stone. Before the great smooth-sided giants at Giza, there was a leap of imagination at Saqqara. The step pyramid did not emerge from a long line of perfected pyramids. It rose out of earlier burial forms and transformed them into something the world had never seen. What began as a mastaba was expanded upward in stages until it became a towering staircase of stone. That choice changed architecture forever. It also introduced risk, because this was not a copied formula. It was a new ambition on a monumental scale. Behind it stands the famous figure of Imhotep, remembered as a brilliant designer and later honored almost like a sage. The monument feels like a turning point made visible. You can sense the daring in it. Egypt was learning how to build not just larger tombs, but eternal landscapes for kings. The first pyramid is fascinating because it is not the end of a tradition. It is the moment a civilization decided to attempt the impossible. Ancient workers left behind clues that changed the whole story. For a long time, many people imagined the pyramids as monuments built by crushed masses in chains. Then the ground began to speak differently. At Giza, archaeologists uncovered workers' villages, bakeries, sleeping areas, animal bones, tools, and traces of an organized labor force that looked far more skilled and structured than legend suggested. Even more revealing were marks left inside the monument itself. Teams wrote names in red paint, and those names sound alive with pride and humor. They speak of work gangs, not faceless suffering. This does not make the labor easy or romantic. It was still immense, exhausting, and tied to royal power. But it changes the human picture. These builders were fed, managed, and grouped in ways that suggest planning on a national scale. Suddenly, the pyramids become more than stone mysteries. They become evidence of a society able to coordinate people, food, transport, and skill with astonishing confidence, and to leave behind little flashes of personality within the heart of empire. Some pyramid passages seem to point beyond the earth itself. Inside the Great Pyramid, narrow shafts rise from deep chambers toward the outer body of the monument. For years, people argued over whether they were simply for air, but that answer has never fully satisfied everyone. Their directions have invited richer ideas. Some researchers believe they were aligned toward stars tied to kingship, eternity, and rebirth. In that reading, the shafts were not practical channels at all. They were symbolic routes, lines of passage for a ruler becoming something more than mortal. That possibility gives the interior a strange grandeur. The pyramid stops being only a burial structure and becomes a carefully aimed machine of transformation. These shafts are also physically intriguing because some end at tiny sealed doors, which only deepens the sense of design with purpose behind it. Whether they served ritual, astronomy, or several meanings at once, they remind us that the ancient Egyptians may have imagined architecture as a bridge, joining a chamber of stone to a destination far above the dull desert. The biggest pyramid was astonishingly precise for the ancient world. Its scale is what first shocks most people, yet the precision may be even more astonishing. The base was laid out with extraordinary care. The sides were oriented close to the cardinal directions, with a level of accuracy that still inspires debate about how it was done. This was not rough monument building. It was exacting work, carried out across an enormous footprint, where small mistakes could grow into disastrous ones. And still, the finished result shows discipline that feels almost unnerving. There are tiny differences, slight irregularities, and human traces in the numbers, which somehow make the achievement even more impressive. Perfection was not the point. Control was. Ancient surveyors working with simple tools, careful observation, and repeated checking may have achieved something that still feels beyond expectation. The Great Pyramid fascinates because it combines brute mass with subtle measurement. It is huge enough to humble the eye, yet precise enough to humble the mind that tries to dismiss it as primitive. We still debate what the pyramids were truly meant to do. The simplest answer is that they were tombs for kings, and in one sense, that is true. They were part of royal burial complexes linked to temples, ceremonies, and the passage into the afterlife. Yet that answer does not end the discussion. It begins it. Why this form? Why this scale? Why this careful relationship to the sun, the horizon, and perhaps the stars? Why chambers arranged in such unusual ways? Why features that seem practical in one moment and symbolic in the next? The pyramids may have been tombs, but they were never only tombs. They were engines of kingship, statements of cosmic order, and demonstrations of a ruler's power to command labor and shape the landscape itself. Some ideas remain fringe, and some are more widely accepted, but the wonder lies in the layering. These monuments seem to perform several roles at once. That is why they endure so strongly in the imagination. They refuse to fit neatly inside a single human category. The silence inside the pyramids may be part of their mystery. Many ancient monuments explain themselves through walls covered in writing or carved scenes. The earliest Great Pyramids are different. Their interiors can feel stark, bare, and withholding. That absence changes the experience completely. Instead of being told what to think, we are left with space, stone, angles, and unanswered intention. The silence becomes part of the architecture. It creates a strange sensation that the monument is still holding something back. Later pyramids included texts that helped guide the dead king into the next world. But the Great Pyramids at Giza keep much of their meaning unspoken. That forces every visitor, scholar, and dreamer into the same position. We infer. We compare. We imagine. And because the structure offers so little direct explanation, every chamber and corridor feels heavier with possibility. The quiet is not empty. It is charged. It lets mystery collect in the dark, where every footstep echoes against old stone and every unanswered question sounds larger than it did outside. The Step Pyramid changed everything about royal tombs in Egypt. Before this monument rose at Saqqara, royal burials followed older forms that stayed low and horizontal. Then, something changed in the imagination of the court. Stone was stacked upward in stages, and a tomb became a statement visible across the land. That transformation feels almost like a thought becoming architecture. Instead of sheltering the dead beneath a modest mound, the builders created a rising form that suggested ascent, power, and permanence. It was not yet the smooth pyramid that later generations would perfect, but that is part of its fascination. You can almost hear Egypt inventing a new language of kingship while the blocks are still being set. The complex around it was vast, ceremonial, and carefully ordered, as if the afterlife itself needed walls, courts, and pathways. What makes it so compelling is that it carries the energy of the first leap. The builders were not repeating tradition. They were changing the future of monument building forever. One pharaoh tried to build a pyramid that literally changed shape. That pharaoh was Sneferu, and his bent pyramid remains one of the strangest royal monuments in Egypt. Its lower sides rise at one angle, then suddenly shift to a gentler slope partway up. The result is unforgettable. It looks as though the monument changed its mind while reaching for the sky. That visible break has inspired generations of questions. Did the builders notice dangerous cracking or instability? Did they alter the design to finish faster? Were they responding to lessons learned in real time on a structure too important to fail? The beauty of the mystery is that the answer is still debated. You are looking at architecture caught in the act of adaptation. Most ancient monuments hide their revisions. This one wears the revision in plain sight. It lets us glimpse a royal project not as a perfect finished idea, but as a daring experiment under pressure, where ambition, anxiety, and engineering judgment were all written into the final silhouette. The bent pyramid still preserves a construction mystery in stone. What makes this monument so absorbing is that the puzzle is not hidden deep inside. It is visible from a distance in the very outline of the structure. The lower section rises steeply, full of confidence, and then the angle softens before the summit. That change has tempted several explanations, yet none closes the case. Some think builders reacted to signs of strain. Others suggest the adjustment was planned during construction to avoid disaster after what happened at Medem. There is also the haunting possibility that the project itself was teaching Egypt how close ambition could come to collapse. Even more intriguing, much of its casing still survives, which lets us sense how striking it once looked in full. The monument feels like a lesson frozen mid-sentence. It is both success and warning, both achievement and correction. Few pyramids reveal the drama of decision-making so plainly, and that is why the bent pyramid still feels unusually alive. The red pyramid may show the moment pyramid building matured. After bold experiments and visible problems, this monument feels calmer, surer, and more resolved. Built under Sneferu, it is often seen as the first true smooth-sided pyramid, completed successfully on a grand scale. Its sides rise with a steadier confidence, and its overall form suggests that the builders had finally found a workable balance between vision and stability. That is what makes it thrilling. It may capture the moment when pyramid construction stopped being a dangerous leap and became a mastered royal art. Its reddish stone gives it a name that sounds warm, yet the achievement behind it is hard and exacting. Inside, the high corbelled chambers create an atmosphere that is both elegant and severe. You can feel the builders learning how to control space as well as mass. The monument may not draw the same instant attention as Giza, but it matters enormously. It could be the place where centuries of wonder truly became possible. Sneferu built so many pyramids that his ambition still surprises historians. Most rulers would be remembered forever for one monument on this scale. Sneferu is linked with several, and that alone makes him astonishing. Under his reign, pyramid building seems to accelerate from bold experiment to refined execution with a speed that almost feels improbable. Medum, the bent pyramid, and the red pyramid together suggest a king, a court, and a system pushing harder and learning faster than anyone before them. That sequence gives his reign a restless energy. It is not just about building large tombs. It is about testing forms, correcting failures, and driving towards something greater each time. By the time later kings built at Giza, a huge part of the groundwork may already have been laid under Sneferu's watch. His legacy is thrilling because it stretches across multiple monuments that each tell a different part of the story. Through them, he appears less like a single patron and more like the force behind an age of architectural transformation. The Giza Plateau may have been sacred long before pyramids rose. That possibility adds a deep and almost eerie layer to the site. The plateau was not chosen casually. It overlooks the Nile Valley, stands on strong ground, and commands the horizon with a natural authority that would have been impossible to ignore. Some scholars think places like this gathered meaning over time, long before the first giant blocks were set down. Sacred landscapes often begin as chosen ground before they become built ground. Once that idea enters your mind, Giza starts to feel less like an empty stage and more like a place already waiting. The pyramids then become a continuation of reverence rather than its beginning. There may have been earlier associations with kingship, the West, the setting sun, or the edge between fertile life and desert death. Much remains uncertain, but the suggestion is powerful. The famous monuments may stand where memory, geography, and belief had already prepared the land for something enormous. The pyramids were built beside a landscape shaped by vanished waters. It is easy to imagine Giza as timeless desert, dry, still, and unchanged. Yet the ancient setting was more complex. Waterways, flood patterns, and greener conditions once shaped the edge of this plateau in ways that may have been crucial to the building project. That changes the whole picture. Instead of asking how stones crossed a barren wasteland, we begin to picture boats, embankments, harbors, and seasonal movement through a living environment. The pyramids did not rise in isolation from nature. They rose within a landscape that could assist transport, supply workers, and connect royal ambition to the river world of Egypt. There is something striking about that contrast. Today, the site feels distant from water, almost sternly removed from it. In the age of the builders, the relationship may have been far closer. The missing waters make the plateau feel haunted by an older geography, one that helped make the impossible possible and then slowly withdrew from sight. A lost branch of the Nile may explain Giza's location. That idea is one of the most satisfying in pyramid research because it brings together landscape and logic. For years, people wondered how such enormous building materials, food supplies, and labor support could move efficiently to a site that now seems stranded beside the desert. Then, evidence began pointing toward an ancient branch of the Nile that once ran much closer to the pyramids than it does today. If that is right, the choice of Giza suddenly looks far less mysterious and far more strategic. Heavy stone could arrive by water. Workers and provisions could be moved with less strain. Ceremonial access may also have mattered, since royal monuments were tied to journeys and processions. The exciting part is how a vanished river can rewrite a famous question without making it less magical. In fact, it makes the story richer. The pyramids were not built against nature, but with the help of the landscape that has since changed so completely, it almost hid its own role. Quarry marks inside the stones preserve whispers from the builders. These rough painted marks are easy to overlook beside the grandeur of the monuments, yet they may be among the most intimate traces left at Giza. Hidden in spaces the public was never meant to admire, they record names, work teams, and practical activity from the building phase itself. Suddenly the pyramids stop feeling anonymous. You glimpse labor crews with identities, organization, and a kind of earthy presence that cuts through all later legend. Some of the names are playful. Some sound proud. Together they remind us that the monument was not assembled by mystery alone. It was built by real people working in groups, marking stone, tracking effort, and moving through the unfinished heart of the structure. There is something deeply moving about that. The outer form speaks of kingship and eternity, while these hidden marks speak of hands, voices, and days of work. They are small, but they bring us startlingly close to the builders themselves. Some pyramid blocks came from farther away than people expect. Many people imagine the pyramids as purely local creations, carved from stone found right beside the site. Some of that is true, especially for core blocks. But the story becomes more impressive when you follow the materials outward. Fine white casing limestone came from Tura across the Nile. Granite for key interior spaces was brought from Aswan, far to the south, over a remarkable distance. That means the monument was not simply piled up from nearby rock. It drew on a wider network of quarrying, transport, planning, and state control that stretched across Egypt. The puzzle becomes larger than the pyramid itself. It becomes a national project in motion. Think of what that required. Extraction crews, river transport, scheduling, loading, unloading, and exact delivery to a site where timing mattered. Distance becomes part of the wonder. The farther the stone traveled, the more the monument feels like a machine powered by an entire civilization. Its size is impressive, but its reach may be even more astonishing. The casing stones once made the pyramids gleam under sunlight. Most visitors meet the pyramids as rough-stepped giants, weathered and broken by time. That appearance is powerful, but it is also incomplete. Their fine outer casing once transformed the effect entirely. With smooth white limestone fitted across the surface, these monuments would have looked sharpened, finished, and brilliantly reflective beneath the Egyptian sun. That means the pyramids did not merely dominate the landscape through size. They also worked through spectacle. They caught light. They announced themselves from afar. In the clear air of the plateau, the visual impact may have been extraordinary, especially at moments when the sun turned the surfaces pale gold or fierce white. That lost skin matters because it reveals intention. The builders wanted more than durability. They wanted radiance. And once you imagine the pyramids in that state, the whole site feels less like a ruin and more like a vision of royal power made luminous. The disappearance of that brightness is one of the great visual losses of the ancient world. The pyramidion at the summit remains one of Egypt's quiet riddles. Every pyramid narrows toward a point of completion, yet the final crowning piece is often the least certain part of the picture. The pyramidion, the capstone at the summit, carries a strange power in the imagination because it marks the exact place where monument meets sky. Some later examples survive from other sites, which helps us picture shape and symbolism. But for the Great Pyramids themselves, the details remain elusive. Was the top faced in polished stone? Was it gilded, shining at first light? Did it carry sacred meaning tied to the sun's first emergence? The uncertainty is part of the appeal. Such a small element, compared with the bulk below, may have held enormous ceremonial weight. It completed the form. It may also have completed the message. A pyramid without its summit is like a sentence without its last word. The monument still speaks, but something final and exact seems missing, and that missing piece continues to draw wonder upward. We still do not know exactly how the heaviest stones moved. This question becomes especially gripping when granite enters the story. Some of the heaviest blocks in pyramid interiors are not ordinary limestone, but dense stone brought from far away and placed with formidable control. It is one thing to move large blocks across a building site. It is another to transport huge masses over distance, then raise and position them within a monument where every mistake would be costly. Different ideas compete here. Sledges, lubrication, levering, ramps, and careful sequencing all play roles in modern reconstructions. Yet the exact methods, especially for the most difficult pieces, remain stubbornly uncertain. That uncertainty matters because these were not decorative extras. They were essential architectural decisions placed where failure could not be hidden. The mystery has real weight to it, in every sense. The stones themselves sit there as evidence that the task was accomplished, while the method remains partly out of reach. Few puzzles are so tangible. The proof is present. The process is not. Ramp theories keep changing because none solves every problem. Ramps sound like the obvious answer, and that is exactly why they have dominated pyramid debates for so long. The trouble begins when you try to turn the general idea into one complete working system. A very large straight ramp would require immense material, perhaps absurdly so. A spiraling ramp can seem more efficient, yet it raises questions about turning space, visibility, and evidence on the structure itself. Internal ramp ideas are clever, but they also remain difficult to prove. This is what makes the topic so fascinating. Every theory feels persuasive for a moment, then some practical detail starts resisting. The pyramids force every modern explanation to confront scale, slope, manpower, and staging all at once. That is why the debate never stays still for long. It evolves, folds, and branches into hybrid solutions. Perhaps that very complexity is the answer. Not one elegant method, but a changing toolkit. Even so, no single ramp theory has yet managed to quiet the argument. Internal ramps might have wound upward inside the pyramid itself. This idea has a special allure because it turns the monument into part of its own machinery. Instead of imagining a massive external ramp dominating the landscape, some researchers propose that a corridor or ramping system was built within the body of the pyramid, allowing stones to rise in a hidden path as bare. Construction advanced. It is a beautiful concept. The builders would be climbing through the monument while making it, almost threading the finished form from inside. Supporters argue that this could solve problems of scale and reduce the need for huge exterior works. Critics point out that evidence remains debated and that the model must still explain how turns, placement, and logistics worked in detail. What makes the idea memorable is how dramatically it changes the mental picture. The pyramid stops being a passive mass waiting for stone and becomes an active framework guiding stone upward through itself. Whether fully right or not, it shows how inventive the search for answers has become. Straight ramps may have been too massive to be practical. At first glance, a long, straight ramp seems simple and sensible. Build a rising road, drag the stones upward, and keep extending it as the monument grows. But the deeper you follow that image, the larger the difficulties become. To reach higher courses at a manageable slope, the ramp might need to stretch to an enormous length and consume a staggering amount of material. In some reconstructions, the ramp begins to rival the pyramid in scale, which creates an awkward question. Would builders really devote such effort to a temporary structure that left so little trace? That does not make the idea impossible, but it does make it harder to accept on its own. The fascination lies in the mismatch between apparent simplicity and hidden cost. A straight ramp feels intuitive because it translates well to modern imagination. Yet the numbers turn against it. The more practical it first appears, the more questionable it can become when the full monument rises in your mind. Spiral ramp ideas sound elegant, yet evidence remains elusive. there is an immediate appeal to the spiral concept. Instead of one enormous ramp stretching far into the landscape, the rising path could wrap around the pyramid as the structure grew. That would reduce the need for vast temporary works and keep the operation close to the building itself. In the imagination, it looks almost graceful. Stones move upward in a controlled turning motion while the monument slowly takes shape beneath them. Yet that elegance is exactly why the missing evidence matters so much. If a spiral system hugged the outer surface, it might have interfered with checking the pyramid's angles and alignments during construction. It also leaves archaeologists asking where the clearest physical traces are. Some versions place the spiral partly outside, some partly within, and each brings new complications. This is why the theory survives without settling the question. It is clever enough to remain attractive, but not secure enough to end the debate. The pyramid keeps its method just beyond certainty. Counterweight theories suggest gravity may have helped raise the stones. When people imagine pyramid building, they usually picture endless, pulling upward against impossible weight. Counterweight theories introduce a different image. Instead of fighting gravity at every moment, the builders may have used gravity itself in controlled ways. Heavy masses descending on one side could help lift stone on the other. Water, sand, sledges, or weighted systems have all appeared in such proposals. The appeal of these ideas is easy to feel. They make the process seem less like brute struggle and more like calculated balance. Ancient engineers did not need modern machines to think mechanically. They only needed observation, patience, and methods refined through repeated use. Still, the challenge is evidence. Counterweight systems are hard to prove in a way that satisfies everyone, especially when later dismantling and time may have erased temporary installations. Yet the concept remains captivating because it recasts the builders as masters of force, not just labor. They may have moved stone by understanding nature deeply enough to let it do part of the work. Copper tools should have struggled, yet the stonework is real. This is one of those details that makes the whole subject feel more astonishing the longer you sit with it. Copper is softer than iron, and some of the stone used in pyramid building is extremely demanding, especially hard granite. So the obvious question arrives quickly. How could tools with such limitations help produce cuts, surfaces, and chamber work that still impresses people today? Part of the answer lies in repetition, abrasives, skilled labor, and time on a scale modern minds rarely accept. Sand can cut when used well. Softer tools can still shape harder materials when technique is patient enough. But the fascination remains because the finished work seems to exceed what casual intuition expects. That gap between expectation and result is where wonder lives. The builders did not need impossible technology. They needed discipline, knowledge, and a level of sustained effort that is hard to imagine. The tools may sound humble. The outcome absolutely does not. Some granite chambers were shaped with astonishing confidence and control. Step into the heart of these monuments, at least in imagination, and the effect can be strikingly different from the outer mass. There, in certain spaces, granite forms the walls, ceilings, and structural elements with a severity that feels almost modern. The King's Chamber is one of the clearest examples. The stone is heavy, dark, and deliberate. It gives the impression that the builders were not merely stacking blocks, but orchestrating pressure, space, and permanence with exact intent. That is what makes these chambers so compelling. Granite is difficult to quarry, transport, and work, yet here it appears in locations where precision mattered enormously. Even the relieving spaces above suggest careful thought about load and protection. These are not casual interiors hidden inside a big monument. They are hard-won spaces, planned and executed with confidence. And because so much labor was invested where few would ever see it, the result feels even more mysterious. Hidden mastery has a special kind of power. The king's chamber still raises questions about its true purpose. For a room so famous, it remains strangely resistant to certainty. It sits deep within the Great Pyramid, built of granite, stark, heavy, and severe. At its center stands the so-called sarcophagus, yet no clear burial was found there, and that absence keeps the room unsettled in the imagination. Was this always meant to be the king's final resting place, or was it part of a larger ritual design that we still only partly grasp? The chamber's proportions, its location, and the relieving spaces above it all suggest intense planning. Nothing about it feels casual. Yet the room does not explain itself. It offers mass, silence, and intent without giving us a clear script. That is what makes it so gripping. We are standing in one of the most studied spaces on Earth, and still asking whether it was a tomb, a symbolic chamber, or something more layered than either answer alone. The so-called Queen's Chamber may never have held a queen. Its modern name sounds certain, but the room itself does not support that certainty at all. No queen was found there. In fact, the label comes from much later guesswork, not ancient evidence. That alone makes the chamber fascinating, because the name has shaped the public imagination for generations, while the room keeps refusing the role assigned to it. It sits lower than the king's chamber and has a curious form, with a pointed ceiling that gives it a different mood altogether. It also contains features that have inspired long debate, including the small shafts that do not open outside. Some think it may have held a statue or served a symbolic purpose tied to the king's spiritual renewal. Others see it as part of a changing internal plan. What holds the attention is the mismatch between familiar name and uncertain function. We think we know the room. In truth, it may still be hiding its real identity. Narrow shafts inside the Great Pyramid remain strangely difficult to explain. They are too deliberate to dismiss, yet too unusual to fit neatly into one simple answer. From deep within the pyramid, these small channels rise through the masonry in carefully chosen directions. For years, they were called air shafts, which sounds tidy until you notice that some do not even reach the outer surface. That is when the mystery sharpens. If they were not made for breathing air, what were they for? Their alignment has tempted astronomical interpretations. Their placement has suggested ritual meaning. Their tiny scale gives them an almost secretive quality, as though they were made for something unseen rather than something practical. And because they emerge from chambers already filled with uncertainty, they deepen every question around them. The shafts feel like purposeful lines aimed through stone toward a destination we no longer fully understand. Few features in the Great Pyramid are so slender, so specific, and so good at resisting final explanation. Tiny doors deep within the pyramid opened new modern mysteries. When robotic exploration moved through one of the narrow shafts, it found something astonishing. Far inside the pyramid stood a small limestone block fitted with copper handles, almost like a tiny sealed door. The discovery was captivating at once, because it felt intimate and deliberate. This was not a giant chamber or a collapsed passage. It was a barrier placed deep in a confined hidden route, where almost no human eyes had ever looked. Then, when the space beyond was later explored, another blocking stone appeared farther in. Instead of ending the puzzle, the technology multiplied it. Why place such features in so inaccessible a location? Were they symbolic gates? Were they practical closures? Were they marking a sacred boundary that mattered more in meaning than in size? The charm of the mystery lies partly in scale. In a monument famous for enormity, some of the most haunting questions now gather around objects small enough to seem almost personal. robots explored hidden shafts and found more questions than answers. That is one of the most thrilling things about the pyramids in the modern age. Technology did not arrive and make the mystery vanish. It went inward, looked where people could not reach, and uncovered fresh uncertainty. Small robotic devices crawled through narrow shafts inside the Great Pyramid, carrying cameras into spaces too tight for human bodies. What they revealed was not a simple hidden room waiting to be announced, but a sequence of puzzles. Sealed stones, copper fittings, unexpected surfaces, more space beyond than some had guessed. Each new glimpse seemed to sharpen the feeling that the builders had reasons we still do not fully grasp. There is something wonderful about that. Even after centuries of entry and study, the monument can still surprise us through openings no wider than a few hands. The machines moved forward with modern precision, yet the deeper story remained ancient and elusive, as though the pyramid had prepared new riddles for a new age. Air shafts may have served ritual meanings rather than ventilation. The old label sounds practical, but practicality may not be the whole story. Some of these channels are so narrow and so carefully directed that many researchers suspect they carried symbolic meaning instead. If so, they may have been pathways not for air, but for the king's spirit, linking inner chambers to regions of the sky that mattered in royal belief. That possibility changes the emotional feel of the structure. A shaft stops being a technical feature and becomes a route of transformation. Its purpose turns invisible, but no less real to the people who designed it. This matters because Egyptian monuments often fused material form with sacred meaning. A corridor could be both stone and statement. A chamber could be both room and idea. These shafts may belong in that same world. Their dimensions, their destinations, and their silence all suggest intention beyond utility. They feel like architecture that points somewhere the builders believed could not be reached by feet alone. Certain passages seem to frame specific stars in ancient skies. This is why the pyramids begin to feel almost theatrical, as though stone was arranged to meet the heavens at chosen points. Some researchers have argued that certain internal lines and openings correspond to stars that held special meaning in the time of the builders. If that is true, then a passage was not only a route through the monument. It was also a carefully aimed gesture toward the sky. What makes the idea so captivating is its mixture of precision and mystery. The ancient Egyptians watched the heavens closely. They tied celestial cycles to kingship, order, and rebirth. So when a passage seems to frame a meaningful target, the possibility feels more than accidental. Yet debate remains, and that is part of the fascination. Not every alignment convinces everyone. Still, the thought lingers powerfully. Within these vast tombs, lines of stone may have been designed to connect the dead ruler with exact points of light known and honored in the ancient night. Orion has long been linked to pyramid beliefs and kingship. Few star patterns have held the imagination around the pyramids as strongly as Orion. In ancient Egyptian thought, this constellation became associated with Osiris, the god of death, renewal, and royal afterlife. That connection gives Orion a special pull when pyramid alignments are discussed. Some have suggested that features within the Great Pyramid were oriented in ways that symbolically linked the king with this celestial figure. Others have gone much further, proposing grander patterns across the plateau itself. Not all of those ideas are widely accepted, but the attraction is easy to understand. Orion is bright, memorable, and rich in mythic weight. Once placed beside the pyramids, it makes the whole landscape feel charged with cosmic ambition. A ruler is no longer being buried only in earth. He is being placed in relation to a sky story. Whether the links are exact, symbolic, or partly overstated, Orion remains one of the most compelling stars in the pyramid imagination. Circumpolar stars may have symbolized an eternal afterlife for pharaohs. Unlike stars that rise and set, the circumpolar stars circle the northern sky and never seem to disappear below the horizon. That made them powerful symbols in ancient Egypt, where permanence mattered deeply in royal death. A king who joined such stars would not vanish. He would endure. This idea may help explain why some pyramid features seem directed toward the north, and why certain celestial interpretations carry such force. The appeal here is not just astronomical. It is emotional. These stars offered an image of continuity, of existence without ending, of a ruler fixed in the sky beyond decay. In that context, the pyramid becomes more than a tomb or a monument of power. It becomes an engine of permanence, built to place the king within a pattern of unceasing motion above the world. Whether every proposed alignment is correct or not, the broader symbolism is hauntingly beautiful. The dead pharaoh was not meant to rest only below. He was meant to remain. Some alignments appear deliberate, while others may tempt pattern-seeking. That tension is part of what makes pyramid studies so fascinating. On one hand, the builders were clearly capable of astonishing accuracy. They cared about direction, placement, and ordered design. So it would be foolish to dismiss every alignment as coincidence. On the other hand, the human mind loves patterns, especially around monuments this famous. Once enough lines, stars, and landmarks are compared, meaningful-looking connections can appear almost everywhere. That creates a delicate problem. Which alignments were truly intended, and which ones are modern imagination pressing too hard on ancient stone? The honest answer is that both possibilities exist. Some links are strongly argued and grounded in known Egyptian beliefs. Others drift into speculation more quickly. Yet even that uncertainty adds to the subject's charm. The pyramids challenge us not only to wonder, but also to wonder carefully. They invite awe, then ask discipline of it. Few mysteries are so good at balancing real evidence with the temptation of excess. The pyramids at Giza mirror order on a truly monumental scale. Stand back from the details, and the whole plateau begins to speak a larger language. 3 main pyramids, subsidiary structures, temples, causeways, and carefully chosen placements create a sense that this was never a random collection of twos. It feels arranged, considered, and governed by a strong idea of order. That impression matters because ancient Egyptian kingship was deeply tied to harmony, balance, and the maintenance of cosmic order. At Giza, those values may have been translated into landscape itself. The monuments do not merely occupy the plateau. They organize it. Their mass, spacing, and relationships create a pattern that feels ceremonial, even before one knows the details. That is why the sight can feel overwhelming from a distance. It is not only large, it is ordered at a scale that the human mind rarely meets. The effect is powerful because order this immense does not feel ordinary. It feels intentional, authoritative, and somehow closer to a vision than to mere construction. Their cardinal alignment is so close that it still astonishes. The sides of the Great Pyramid are oriented remarkably close to true north, south, east, and west. That fact lands with real force once you remember when it was built. This was achieved without modern surveying equipment, satellite data, or magnetic instruments in any modern sense. And yet the result remains precise enough to keep experts debating exactly how it was done. The wonder here lies in both the achievement and the confidence behind it. To orient a structure of such size so accurately means the builders were not guessing. They had a method, and they trusted it enough to lay out one of the most ambitious monuments ever attempted. The precision also changes the emotional feel of the pyramid. It becomes not just a huge mass of stone, but a shape anchored to the world itself. Its sides answer the Earth's directions with unusual fidelity. That is why the alignment still feels startling. It suggests minds that measured with patience far beyond casual expectation. We still wonder how ancient surveyors achieved such remarkable accuracy. This question sits close to the heart of pyramid wonder, because it is not about brute force. It is about intellect, observation, and control. However the ancient surveyors worked, they translated sky, land, and line into a foundation accurate enough to support a monument of extraordinary ambition. That required more than one lucky measurement. It required a system. Some propose stellar observations. Others point to shadow methods, chord stretching, repeated checks, and highly trained teams. What makes the mystery so durable is that simple explanations can sound convincing, yet the final precision still feels larger than the tools suggest. And perhaps that feeling says as much about us as about them. We underestimate what disciplined observation can do when practiced over generations. The surveyors at Giza may have belonged to a tradition of measurement now mostly silent in the record, but not silent in the stone. Their real triumph was not making marks on the ground. It was making those marks hold. Simple tools may have produced results that feel almost impossible. That contrast is one of the deepest pleasures in the story of the pyramids. Cords, sighting instruments, plumb lines, levels, wooden sledges, copper tools, stone hammers, and human coordination do not sound like the ingredients of near-legendary precision. Yet those humble means may have built some of the most astonishing monuments on Earth. The temptation is to assume that simple tools must produce simple results. The pyramids challenge that assumption at every turn. They remind us that technique matters as much as equipment, and that repetition, training, and organization can turn modest instruments into instruments of great exactness. There is something inspiring in that. The achievement feels less magical, yet more impressive, because it rests on accumulated skill rather than hidden miracle. The tools may have been basic in form, but the minds guiding them were not. That is why the pyramids continue to feel humbling. They force the modern world to respect what patient expertise can do with very little. Shadow watching may have helped builders find true north. Imagine the surveyors standing on the plateau, watching the sun and the movement of shadow across a marked space. Over time, with repeated observation and careful geometry, they may have used solar methods to establish north with impressive reliability. This idea has strong appeal because it feels both elegant and grounded. It does not depend on lost machines or extravagant assumptions. It depends on attention. The sun was the most visible clock in the world, and ancient Egyptians were masters of rhythm, season, and celestial regularity. If shadow-based methods played a role, then one of the grandest monuments ever built began with a patient reading of light moving across the earth. That image carries its own beauty. It also helps explain how accuracy could emerge from simple means. A straight line can come from sustained observation as much as from advanced technology. The deeper wonder is that a passing shadow may have helped anchor stone that would outlast kingdoms. Stellar methods may have guided the layout with celestial precision. Another powerful possibility is that the builders found their directions not from the sun, but from stars. By watching certain stars cross the sky in relation to one another, surveyors may have identified north with impressive accuracy. This approach has fascinated researchers because it fits a culture deeply attentive to the heavens, and because it helps explain why the pyramids can feel so intimately tied to the sky. There is something thrilling about the idea that a royal monument on Earth began with a sightline into the night. It turns surveying into a kind of ceremony of observation. The land is measured through the stars, and architecture is born from celestial order. Debate remains over the exact method and which stars may have been involved, but the underlying possibility is compelling. It suggests that the builders did not simply orient a structure, they embedded it within a wider cosmic frame. Stone then becomes more than material. It becomes an answer to the sky's own geometry. The plateau itself may have influenced where each pyramid stands. The layout at Giza looks so commanding that it is easy to imagine it was chosen purely for symbolism. Yet the ground itself may have shaped the final decisions more than we first assume. Bedrock strength, slope, workable surfaces, and practical access all matter when a monument of this scale is planned. That does not make the placement less impressive. It makes it more intelligent. The builders may have been balancing symbolism with geology, sacred ideas with the stubborn facts of the plateau. This helps explain why the monuments feel both visionary and grounded. They are not abstract diagrams dropped onto empty land. They are responses to a real site with advantages and constraints. Once you think that way, the plateau starts to feel like an active partner in the project. The builders were not merely imposing order on nature. They were reading the land, choosing with care, and placing each pyramid where ambition and terrain could best meet in stone. Bedrock beneath the monuments shaped decisions hidden by later stone. Much of the real story of pyramid building begins below what we first see. The builders were not working on a blank platform. They were working with bedrock that rose, dipped, and offered both opportunities and limits. In some places, natural rock could be incorporated into the monument's core or help support its weight. In others, leveling and adjustment were needed before the visible structure could begin. That hidden groundwork matters because it reveals a quieter kind of genius. Before grandeur came judgment. Before polished casing came practical reading of the earth itself. The final monument can make us think only of what was added upward, yet the earliest decisions may have involved what to leave, what to cut, and what to trust beneath the surface. This is one reason the pyramids feel so rooted. They do not merely sit on the plateau. They grow from choices made in dialogue with the stone below. The foundation is part of the mystery, even when hidden. The Great Pyramid contains subtle irregularities that make experts pause. For a monument celebrated for precision, it also contains small departures from perfect expectation. That is part of its fascination. A side may vary slightly. A passage may not fit the cleanest modern assumption. Certain dimensions and relationships can look exact at first, then reveal tiny complexities when studied closely. These irregularities do not weaken the achievement. They humanize it. They remind us that the Great Pyramid was built by real people, working through enormous practical challenges, not by some abstract force of perfection. At the same time, the deviations are often so slight that they make the broader accuracy feel even more extraordinary. The monument is not a flawless geometric dream. It is something more interesting. It is disciplined, ambitious, and just irregular enough to hint at process, adjustment, and decision under pressure. That is why experts pause over the details. The small departures are clues. They show where ideal design met the living reality of construction. Its base is not perfectly square, yet remains extraordinary. That fact captures something essential about the pyramids. The Great Pyramid is often spoken of as though it were flawless, but the truth is more interesting than perfection. Measurements show slight differences in side lengths and tiny variations that remind us this was a built object, not an abstract diagram. And still, the overall result remains astonishing. The base is vast. The orientation is remarkably close. The level of control across such scale is enough to leave modern observers in genuine admiration. In a way, the slight imperfection strengthens the wonder. It proves that the monument did not need mathematical fantasy to achieve greatness. It only needed mastery far beyond what most people expect from the ancient world. The pyramid stands in that beautiful zone where human effort becomes almost unbelievable without ever ceasing to be human. That may be why it holds the imagination so firmly. It is not perfect stone. It is magnificent judgment made visible. The entrance we use today was not the original way inside. Most visitors enter the Great Pyramid through a later breach, not the doorway its builders intended. That changes the entire mood of the experience. The original entrance was part of a controlled design, placed high and planned with purpose. The route used now belongs to intrusion, not ceremony. It was cut by people trying to get past sealed stone and reach whatever treasure or truth might lie beyond. So from the first step, modern entry already tells a second story. One is ancient and deliberate. The other is restless and invasive. That contrast is strangely powerful. Even before the passages narrow and the chambers deepen, the monument reminds us that its first meaning has been interrupted. We do not enter as the ancient Egyptians intended. We enter through a wound, and that wound has shaped the pyramid's story ever since. Ancient robbers found routes that still frustrate modern investigators. Long before modern archaeology, robbers were already forcing their way into pyramids with tools, instinct, and ruthless determination. They were not mapping the monuments. They were breaking them open. That leaves scholars with a maddening problem. Some routes are original. Some are later cuts. Some may contain traces of both. Once stone has been hacked away, the pyramid becomes harder to read. Planned design and desperate intrusion start to blur together. A broken passage may look ancient until closer study suggests violence rather than intention. That uncertainty matters because every robbed chamber is also a damaged document. The thieves were hunting valuables, but in doing so, they may have destroyed clues far more precious than gold. Their paths still frustrate investigators because they altered not just the contents of the monuments, but the evidence needed to understand how those monuments were meant to work. Some burial goods vanished so early that history barely noticed. One of the strangest possibilities is that certain royal goods disappeared almost as soon as they were placed. If that happened, then some pyramids were robbed before memory had time to settle around what was lost. Precious vessels, fine linens, furniture, amulets, and ceremonial objects may have vanished into silence before any later record could describe them. That gives the empty chambers a different feeling. They are not simply ancient. They may have been stripped shockingly early. In that case, absence becomes part of the story. We are not just studying what survived. We are standing inside gaps left by theft so old that history itself barely caught sight of it. There is something deeply unsettling in that. A monument built to secure eternity may have been breached almost at once. Some treasures were not swallowed by myth over time. They were removed so quickly, but the world scarcely had a chance to remember them. Pyramid texts in later monuments changed how kings imagined eternity. When sacred texts appeared inside later pyramids, the afterlife became more explicit, more detailed, and more verbal. These were not casual inscriptions. They were spells, declarations, protections, and guides for the dead king. The walls themselves began to speak. That shift is fascinating because it shows a new layer of royal ambition. Stone alone was no longer enough. Words now helped the ruler survive, rise, and join the divine world. The king could be defended by language as well as by architecture. That changed the inner atmosphere of the pyramid completely. A chamber was no longer just a chamber. It was a place where utterance mattered. The texts named dangers and promised transformation. They turned the tomb into a kind of sacred script. Later pyramids therefore reveal not only changing religion, but changing confidence in what writing could do. Eternity was no longer only built. It was also spoken into being. The earliest Great Pyramids were not covered with written spells. That silence makes them feel even more mysterious. In the earliest Great Pyramids, the walls do not explain themselves through sacred writing. They do not offer spells, named dangers, or verbal instructions for the dead. Instead, they leave us with stone, direction, passage, and mass. Meaning has to be read through architecture alone. That gives these monuments a very different power from later inscribed pyramids. They feel withheld, almost reserved. A rising corridor, a sealed room, a chosen alignment. All of it matters more because so little is stated outright. The builders seem to have trusted form to carry the meaning. That is one reason the Great Pyramid feels so hard to exhaust. It does not tell you what it is doing. It simply does it. Later monuments speak more openly. These early giants remain sternly quiet. Their silence is not emptiness. It is part of what keeps them alive in the imagination. Their silence forces us to infer meaning from architecture alone. In many ancient monuments, inscriptions guide the viewer toward the intended meaning. The early pyramids deny us that comfort. They give us corridors, chambers, shafts, and proportions, but very little explanation. That changes how the whole mystery works. We have to read movement, darkness, direction, and placement as if they were part of a hidden language. Why does one passage descend while another rises? Why place one chamber where it stands and leave another oddly unfinished? These questions feel powerful because the monument never answers them directly. Instead, the architecture itself becomes the argument. A room may be symbolic. A corridor may be ceremonial. A void may matter as much as a wall. That is why these pyramids keep pulling people back. They demand interpretation without surrendering certainty. Their silence does not weaken them. It deepens them. The less they say in words, the more every stone seems to suggest. Mortuary temples beside pyramids reveal lives beyond the tomb itself. A pyramid was never just a sealed house for a dead king. Beside it stood a mortuary temple, where priests made offerings and rituals continued long after burial. That changes the entire picture. The pyramid was the still center, but not the whole system. Around it, acts of remembrance and sacred duty kept the ruler present in the world of the living. Food was offered. Incense was burned. Ceremonies were repeated. The dead king remained part of an ongoing relationship. This makes the site feel less like a single event and more like a sustained sacred routine. Death did not end the king's role. It transformed it. The mortuary temple shows that pyramid complexes were built for continuity as much as for burial. They supported memory, devotion, and royal identity over time. Once you imagine those spaces in use, the whole landscape becomes more alive. The pyramid stops being isolated and becomes the heart of a living ritual system. Causeways connected pyramids to rituals, processions, and sacred geography. These long stone routes did more than link one structure to another. They carried meaning across the landscape. A causeway joined the valley temple to the mortuary temple and tied the pyramid into a ceremonial journey. That makes it far more than a practical road. It was part of the drama of kingship after death. Movement along it could mark procession, offering, transition, and the ordered passage between sacred zones. The landscape itself became staged. Water, temple, route, pyramid. Each element belonged to a larger sequence. That is what makes causeways so compelling. They show that the pyramid complex was designed as an experience, not just a destination. the dead king was placed within a network of movement and symbolism. Even distance had meaning. A causeway stretched royal presence across the plateau and turned empty space into part of the ritual. It was a line through the desert, but also a line through belief. Valley temples hint that water once mattered more than today. Seen now, Giza feels dry and remote from the river. Yet the valley temples suggest a very different ancient setting, one in which water played a much closer role. These temples stood nearer the floodplain and likely marked a place where boats arrived with people, offerings, and perhaps parts of the funeral procession itself. That is a thrilling thought, because it makes the pyramids feel tied to a living waterscape rather than stranded in bare desert. The king's journey may have moved from river to temple to causeway to pyramid in one carefully staged sequence. Water was not just background. It was part of the sacred approach. This matters because it restores motion to a site that can now seem still. The monuments were once reached through a landscape of transport, ceremony, and controlled arrival. The valley temples preserve that memory. They hint that the dry plateau we see today is only the last version of a much older setting. Boat pits near pyramids suggest journeys beyond death and earth. Near several pyramids, archaeologists found long pits made to hold boats or the remains of boats. That discovery widened the mystery immediately. These were not ordinary tools left at random. They seemed tied to royal meaning and to the journey of the dead. In Egyptian thought, boats could carry gods across the sky and the dead through sacred realms. So a buried boat near a pyramid feels like more than equipment. It feels like preparation for movement beyond the visible world. That idea is haunting. A king did not simply lie in stone. He traveled. Whether the boats were purely symbolic or also used in funerary rites remains debated, but their presence is unforgettable. They turn the pyramid complex into something larger than a tomb. It becomes a departure point. The stone rises upward. The boat waits nearby. Together they suggest that death was imagined not as stillness, but as passage into a wider and more mysterious journey. A royal ship survived beside Giza, almost unbelievably intact. One of the most astonishing finds at Giza was a full-sized wooden royal boat buried in pieces beside the Great Pyramid, then reassembled in modern times. Its survival feels almost miraculous. Wood is fragile, time is ruthless, and yet this vessel endured for thousands of years in carefully prepared silence. Seeing it changes the emotional scale of the site. Suddenly the pyramid is not only stone. It belongs to a world that also built with timber, rope, curved planks, and remarkable craftsmanship. The boat feels intimate in a way the pyramid does not. It has human scale, human form, and the suggestion of motion. Yet it also belongs to royal eternity. Was it used in a funeral procession? Was it made for a sacred voyage after death? The uncertainty makes it even more captivating. Beside one of the greatest stone monuments on Earth, a wooden vessel survived to remind us that the king's journey may have continued far beyond the chamber. We still debate whether pyramid boats were symbolic or used. That question keeps the boat pits wonderfully alive as a mystery. Some scholars think certain vessels were ceremonial but functional, used in funerary processions or royal rites before burial. Others see them as primarily symbolic, created to serve the king in the afterlife rather than in the visible world. Both possibilities are compelling. A used boat carries the force of real motion, a king once transported across sacred water. A symbolic boat carries a different power, one tied to myth, solar journeys, and divine passage beyond death. The debate matters because it changes how we imagine the whole complex. Was the buried vessel the last trace of an earthly ceremony, or the first provision for a cosmic one? Perhaps in some cases the line was never sharp. In ancient Egypt, an object could do practical work and still carry deep sacred meaning. That uncertainty is exactly why the boats remained so fascinating. They float between worlds, even when buried. Worker villages show planning, pay, and community, not slavery myths. For a long time, popular imagination reduced pyramid building to a story of vast slave labor. The evidence now points somewhere more interesting. Excavations at worker sites near Giza reveal barracks, food production, organized labor groups, and signs of state support on a serious scale. These were not random crowds driven without structure. They were part of a managed system. People were housed, fed, and coordinated. That does not make the work easy. It was still punishing and immense. But it changes the human story. The pyramids begin to look less like products of chaos and more like products of national organization. Worker villages bring the builders into focus as real communities with routines, hierarchies, and shared effort. That matters enormously because it returns the monument to human hands without diminishing its grandeur. In some ways, it increases it. The pyramids are not only miracles of stone. They are miracles of coordination, discipline, and collective human purpose. Bread, beer, and labor teams helped raise the impossible. Behind the grandeur of the pyramids lies a simpler and very human truth. Massive projects depend on feeding people well enough to keep them working. Bread and beer were staples of ancient Egyptian life, and at worker settlements their importance becomes unmistakable. These were not minor comforts. They were fuel for one of the greatest building efforts in history. Organized labor teams, supplied at scale, transformed food into endurance and endurance into architecture. That connection is fascinating because it grounds the sublime in the ordinary. The pyramid rises from stone and geometry, yes, but also from ovens, grain, brewing, storage, and daily rationing. A monument that seems almost beyond belief was sustained by systems of nourishment repeated day after day. Once you picture that, the site feels richer and more real. The impossible was not raised by abstraction. It was raised by fed bodies, coordinated crews, and a state able to turn daily provisions into lasting stone. Graffiti crews gave themselves names that sound surprisingly human. Hidden inside parts of the pyramid complex, ancient work gangs left painted marks that still feel startlingly alive. These names were not grand royal inscriptions. They were practical, informal, and often full of character. Some sound proud. Some sound playful. Together, they break through the usual image of pyramid building as a faceless mass effort. Suddenly, the builders seem closer. They had group identities, loyalties, and perhaps even a sense of humor. That matters because enormous monuments can make the human scale disappear. These graffiti marks restore it. They remind us that the stones were moved by crews who knew one another and worked under names that carried spirit and cohesion. The marks are small, but the effect is large. Inside one of the most famous monuments on Earth, people left traces that sound like people, not legends. In that sense, the graffiti are wonderfully disruptive. They make the builders feel present again. The builders may have worked in rotating teams from across Egypt. One powerful idea is that pyramid labor drew on rotating crews from different parts of the kingdom. If so, the monument becomes even more impressive. It was not only a project at Giza. It was a project that may have pulled people, resources, and obligation from across Egypt in organized waves. That would help explain how such vast work could be sustained without one permanent labor force doing everything at once. It also turns pyramid building into a national act. Villages far from the plateau may have contributed people to a royal enterprise that bound the kingdom together through work as well as symbolism. There is something striking in that image. The pyramid then becomes not just the pharaoh's monument, but a concentration of effort drawn from the wider land. Even if details remain debated, the concept has real force. It suggests that the building of Giza may have involved Egypt itself breathing in rhythms of service, labor, and return. Seasonal flooding might have freed labor for colossal royal projects. The Nile did more than nourish crops. Its seasonal rhythm may also have shaped when huge numbers of workers were available. During flooding, when fields could not be worked in the usual way, labor may have shifted toward royal building projects. That possibility is fascinating because it ties the rise of the pyramids to the pulse of the river itself. Monument building was not simply imposed against nature. It may have been timed with nature. The kingdom could gather workers when agriculture paused, turning a season of flooded fields into a season of concentrated state labor. That idea makes the pyramids feel woven into Egyptian life at a very deep level. The river fed the land, set the calendar, and may even have helped schedule one of history's greatest feats of construction. Once you see that connection, the pyramids become more than stone achievements. They become monuments built in rhythm with the living cycle that sustained the civilization around them. Animal bones near worker sites hint at large state support. At the worker settlements near Giza, archaeologists found large quantities of animal bones, and those remains tell an important story. These people were being fed at scale, and not poorly. Cattle, sheep, and goats point to organized provisioning far beyond what a casual camp would suggest. That matters because food is evidence of power. To sustain a major labor force with meat and other supplies, the state needed planning, transport, storage, and authority. The bones therefore do more than describe diet. They reveal infrastructure. They show that pyramid building depended on a serious support system operating behind the visible stone. There is something exciting about that kind of clue. A scrap of bone can open onto the machinery of an entire kingdom. It reminds us that the pyramids were not built by isolated workers surviving on almost nothing. They were backed by a supply network large enough to nourish a monumental national project. The pyramids were feats of logistics as much as stone. When people first think about the pyramids, they usually picture weight, ramps, and the physical challenge of moving blocks. But stone was only one part of the achievement. The larger miracle may have been logistics. Food had to arrive. Tools had to be made and repaired. Workers had to be housed, organized, and rotated. Stone had to come from quarries, cross distance, reach the right place, and appear at the right moment. The deeper you look, the more the pyramids resemble an enormous system in motion. That is what makes them so extraordinary. They were not just built, they were orchestrated. A breakdown in timing could ripple through the whole enterprise. Yet somehow the effort held together on a scale that still feels daunting today. In that sense, the pyramid is only the visible result. Behind it stood planning, supply, transport, labor management, and institutional power strong enough to keep a vast machine working. Even the quarry roads became part of the engineering miracle. The pyramids did not begin at the base of the monument. They began where stone was cut, dragged, and guided toward the site. Quarry roads were crucial to that journey, and some still preserve traces of the immense planning involved. These paths had to bear weight, manage movement, and connect extraction to construction with as little wasted effort as possible. That may sound humble beside chambers and alignments, but it is part of the real wonder. Great monuments depend on invisible systems. A road can be as important as a chamber when thousands of blocks must arrive in order. Once you picture teams moving stone along prepared routes, the miracle expands. It is no longer only about lifting. It is about linking every stage of the process into one workable chain. Even the roads mattered, because every masterpiece of engineering relies on smaller acts of engineering that make the masterpiece possible. Ancient tool marks remain visible if you know where to look. For all their scale, the pyramids still preserve intimate traces of work. In some places, the stone carries chisel lines, pounding marks, and surfaces left mid-process rather than finished for display. Those details matter because they pull the monument back into human reach. A pyramid can feel almost abstract from a distance, yet up close it still remembers blows, adjustments, and deliberate handling. The marks also reveal priority. Some faces were refined because they would be seen. Others stayed rough because they were meant to disappear behind casing or deeper stone. That practical difference is fascinating. It shows builders thinking constantly about labor, visibility, and function. The monument was not shaped as one smooth miracle. It was shaped through countless choices about where effort mattered most. Sometimes the most gripping evidence is not a chamber or a hidden void, but a small scar left by the act of making. Stone by stone, the pyramids preserve decisions made in motion. A pyramid looks fixed and final, yet it is really a record of choices made while everything was still in progress. Each course, join, and adjustment preserves a decision. Builders had to respond to weight, angle, alignment, material, and time, all while the monument kept rising around them. That is what makes these structures feel strangely alive. They are not just finished ideas. They are judgment made permanent. A block was set here instead of there. A line was corrected. A surface was refined or left hidden. Those choices remain locked into the stone. Once you start seeing the monument that way, it changes completely. The pyramid is no longer only an object. It becomes a sequence of problem-solving, ambition, and careful control unfolding over years. The wonder lies not just in the final shape, but in the moving chain of decisions that somehow held together long enough to create it. Some blocks were fitted with care, while others stayed rough. That contrast reveals something important about pyramid building. Not every block received the same treatment, and that was no failure. It was strategy. Stones in exposed or critical places could be shaped and joined with impressive care, while blocks deep in the core might remain rough and functional. The builders were not polishing everything equally. They were deciding where precision truly mattered. That makes the achievement more impressive, not less. It shows a deep understanding of labor, structure, and appearance. A hidden surface did not need the same finish as an outer casing stone. A buried join could stay crude if it helped the monument rise efficiently. This unevenness gives the pyramids a kind of practical honesty. They were not built for abstract perfection. They were built by people who knew how to distribute effort wisely. In that sense, the rougher stones are just as revealing as the finest ones. They show intelligence at work, not carelessness. Hidden relieving chambers protected the core from crushing weight above. Above the king's chamber lies one of the cleverest hidden features in the Great Pyramid. A series of small spaces was built to help redirect the tremendous weight pressing down from above. Without them, the chamber below might have been damaged by the mass of stone overhead. What makes this so fascinating is that the feature was never meant to impress anyone. It was buried, unseen, and purely functional. Yet it reveals remarkable foresight. The builders were not just piling blocks upward. They were thinking carefully about pressure, survival, and the long life of the monument. That hidden system adds a new layer to the pyramid's mystery. Beneath the grandeur, there is quiet engineering of a very high order. These spaces protect without being admired. They solve a problem almost no visitor would ever notice. That is part of their power. Some of the pyramid's most brilliant thinking was placed where hardly anyone was meant to look. Their very existence stayed unknown until modern exploration broke through. For centuries, people entered the Great Pyramid without knowing that concealed spaces lay above the king's chamber. Then modern explorers broke through and exposed them, revealing hidden compartments no ordinary visitor was ever meant to see. That discovery has a special thrill because it shows how much the monument could still conceal even after ages of attention. These were not decorated rooms waiting to be admired. They were secret structural spaces, buried and silent, doing their work unseen. Once found, they changed the story of the pyramid. The monument became more layered, more thoughtful, and more difficult to reduce to simple mass. It was not just huge. It was internally sophisticated in ways earlier visitors had not guessed. There is something wonderful in that. A world-famous building still had architectural secrets locked above one of its best-known chambers. Discovery did not make it smaller. It made it stranger and more impressive than before. Names painted inside the Great Pyramid tied the monument to Khufu. One of the most important clues inside the Great Pyramid is not grand or beautiful. It is rough red writing, painted in hidden spaces where almost no one was ever meant to look. These marks include work gang names and references that connect the monument to Khufu. That matters enormously, because for generations people argued over who really built the pyramid. A few painted signs deep within the structure helped anchor the answer to a specific king. The power of that evidence lies partly in its plainness. It is not a polished royal inscription put on display. It looks like practical work, the kind of thing left by builders moving through unfinished spaces. That makes it feel startlingly direct. A monument famous for silence suddenly offers a human voice from within its own body. The writing is rough, but its historical force is immense. Sometimes a few painted strokes can settle questions that grandeur alone never could. Those rough red marks changed one of Egypt's biggest debates. Before those painted quarry marks were widely accepted, doubt had more room to grow. People speculated about alternative builders, lost civilizations, and all kinds of dramatic possibilities. The rough red inscriptions inside the Great Pyramid changed that debate in a very grounded way. They pointed back to work crews, royal administration, and Khufu himself. That did not solve every mystery, but it narrowed one major question with unusual force. What makes this so satisfying is the nature of the evidence. The marks are not theatrical. They are plain, workmanlike, and hidden. They feel like the kind of thing history leaves behind by accident rather than design. Because of that, they carry a special credibility. They bring the monument back into the world of actual labor and royal organization. In a subject crowded with speculation, a few rough signs made an enormous difference. They reminded everyone that sometimes the strongest clues are the least glamorous ones. Yet even with Khufu named, many questions remain unanswered. Knowing the king linked to the Great Pyramid does not make the deeper wonder disappear. Khufu's name helps identify the patron, but it does not fully explain the process, the purpose of every chamber, or the exact methods that brought the monument into being. In some ways, that makes the pyramid even more fascinating. The central ownership question becomes clearer, while the larger mystery stays gloriously open. We know more, but not enough to quiet the imagination. How was the work organized in full detail? Why were certain internal features designed as they were? What meaning did the builders attach to the whole arrangement of passage, chamber, and stone? These questions remain alive even after Khufu enters the picture. That is why the monument keeps its hold on people. A name can anchor history, but it cannot dissolve wonder. The Great Pyramid still stands in that rare place where one answer has arrived and 100 others still wait. Khufu's pyramid may look taller because of its commanding ground. At first glance, many visitors think Khufu's pyramid is the tallest at Giza. In fact, the Great Pyramid of Khufu was built higher. Khufu's seems to challenge that fact because of where it stands. Its position on slightly higher ground gives it a commanding presence that changes the eye's judgment. That illusion is fascinating because it reminds us how much ancient builders understood visual power. Height is one thing. Perceived height is another. Khufu's monument takes advantage of both architecture and terrain, and the result is striking. It seems to rise with unusual authority above the plateau, especially from certain angles. To make the effect stronger, some casing stones still cling near its summit, hinting at a once smoother finish. The whole monument feels poised to rival its larger neighbor through placement and impression. It is a wonderful lesson in how pyramids work on the mind. Their power comes not only from measurement, but from how they occupy the land. Menkaura's smaller pyramid still carries mysteries out of proportion. Compared with the two larger pyramids beside it, Menkaura's can look modest at first. Yet that smaller scale makes its mysteries feel more concentrated, not less. The monument preserves unusual details, including traces of granite casing on the lower courses, which immediately set it apart in character. That choice suggests a different visual ambition, one both rich and deliberate. The pyramid also belongs to a complex that opens questions about shifting royal priorities, changing resources, and the evolving meaning of pyramid building itself. Its size invites underestimation, but the closer you look, the more intriguing it becomes. There is even something compelling about its restraint. After giants, this monument feels like a different answer to the same royal problem. How should a king build for eternity? Menkaura's response was smaller, but not simple. It still holds its own atmosphere, its own architectural choices, and its own share of unanswered questions beside far larger neighbors. Satellite pyramids beside the great ones open quieter royal questions. Near the Great Pyramid stand smaller companion pyramids that rarely receive the same public attention, yet they are full of significance. These satellite structures open quieter questions about family, status, ritual, and the broader sacred landscape around the king. They remind us that the pyramid field was not built for one person alone in absolute isolation. Royal life and royal death extended outward through related monuments, each carrying meaning within the larger design. Some may have belonged to queens. Some may have held symbolic roles linked to the king's journey or identity. Their reduced size can make them seem secondary, but that would be a mistake. Often, the quieter structures tell us how the whole system really worked. They show that pyramid architecture was relational, not solitary. The king stood at the center, but others were gathered nearby in stone. These smaller monuments whisper rather than shout, yet their whispers can change how we understand the entire royal landscape. Queen's pyramids reveal that sacred architecture extended beyond one king. The presence of Queen's pyramids near the great royal monuments tells us something crucial. Pyramid building was not only about one ruler's body or glory. It was also about a wider, sacred and dynastic world that included royal women in visible, lasting form. These smaller pyramids do not rival the king's monument in scale, but that is not their purpose. Their importance lies in what they reveal about proximity, status, and shared sacred space. A queen placed near the king in such architecture was being woven into the royal order of memory and eternity. That deepens the whole story of Giza. The plateau was not a stage for one monumental ego alone. It was a carefully arranged field of related identities. These pyramids also invite questions. Why were some queens honored this way and others not? How were rank and ritual expressed through size and placement? The smaller monuments do not answer quietly. They enlarge the mystery. Not every pyramid was smooth, grand, or successfully finished. It is tempting to imagine Egyptian pyramids as one continuous parade of polished perfection. The reality is more interesting. Some were left incomplete. Some were built on a smaller scale. Some never achieved the seamless, triumphant form later generations came to admire. That matters because it returns experimentation and vulnerability to the story. Pyramid building was not a magical formula that always worked. It was a demanding tradition, full of risk, revision, and uneven outcomes. Once you accept that, the great successes become even more impressive. They were not inevitable. They were won. Failed or awkward monuments also reveal the learning process in a way perfect ones cannot. They show where ambition outran method, where problems emerged, or where circumstances changed. In that sense, the less celebrated pyramids are essential to the mystery. They prove that Egypt's monumental age was not just a string of masterpieces. It was also a field of attempts, setbacks, and unfinished dreams. Some pyramids failed, collapsed, or were abandoned mid-ambition. That fact gives pyramid history real drama. These monuments can look eternal, yet some did not succeed even in their own time. Structural weakness, design trouble, or changing plans could leave a pyramid unstable, altered, or unfinished. That is important because it shows how uncertain this grand architectural tradition could be while it was still developing. Builders were testing limits. Kings were demanding permanence. The stone did not always cooperate. A pyramid that failed carries a special fascination because it preserves risk in visible form. You are not just seeing a monument. You are seeing ambition meet resistance. Sometimes that resistance came from engineering. Sometimes it may have come from politics, resources, or the pressure of time. Whatever the cause, these troubled pyramids tell us that monument building was not smooth progress. It involved danger, revision, and the possibility of spectacular disappointment. The great survivors shine brighter when set against those moments when the experiment faltered. Medem may preserve one of Egypt's most haunting architectural failures. Few monuments in Egypt look quite as strange as Medem. What remains rises like a tower from a slope of broken stone, giving the site the eerie appearance of a pyramid that somehow came undone. That image is haunting because it feels like a monument caught between success and ruin. Scholars still debate exactly when and how its outer structure failed, but the visual effect alone is unforgettable. Medem seems to preserve a moment when pyramid ambition outran secure execution. That makes it more than a damaged building. It becomes a warning written in architecture. Standing before it, you can almost sense the fragility hidden inside monumental confidence. It also matters historically, because monuments like this may have taught builders hard lessons that shaped later designs. Failure at Medem may have echoed forward into the age of better understood construction. In that sense, the broken form is not only tragic, it may be one of the teachers behind later greatness. Its broken form still sparks debate over what went wrong. Medem's strange ruin has never stopped provoking argument. Was the outer casing built in a way that made collapse likely? Did part of the failure happen during construction, or much later after the monument was already standing? Was the design itself unstable, or did later removal of stone worsen the damage beyond recognition? These questions matter because Medem is not just a ruin. It is evidence in a continuing architectural investigation. The monument looks simple from afar, but the story behind that broken shape is anything but simple. What failed, when it failed, and how people responded may all carry clues about Egypt's early learning curve in pyramid building. That is why the site feels so alive to debate. It is one of those rare places where absence does not close the mystery. It opens it wider. The missing outer form is precisely what keeps scholars looking, arguing, and imagining the moment when confidence in stone met a hard lesson. Later pyramids grew smaller, yet their texts grew more revealing. As time went on, many royal pyramids lost some of the overwhelming scale seen at Giza, yet something else increased inside them. Words. The later pyramid texts opened more of the king's hoped-for journey after death than the earlier giants ever did. That contrast is fascinating. The monuments became less gigantic in mass, but more expressive in meaning. It is almost as if the architecture stepped back a little so language could step forward. Later pyramids, therefore, feel different in character. They may not dominate the horizon in the same way, but they reveal more of the theology, danger, and aspiration bound up in royal burial. Smaller size did not mean smaller imagination. In some ways, it meant a more detailed one. These monuments show that pyramid history was not a simple rise and fall. It was a shift in emphasis. The age of colossal silence gave way, little by little, to monuments that spoke more openly from within. The Pyramid Age changed gradually, not with one final ending. It is easy to imagine the Pyramid Age stopping like a door suddenly shut. In truth, the change was slower and more complicated. Monumental priorities shifted. Royal burial practices evolved. Resources, politics, and religious emphasis moved over time. Yet the pyramid form did not simply vanish in a single dramatic moment. It diminished, transformed, and left traces of itself in later traditions. That gradual change is important because it makes the whole story feel more human and less theatrical. Civilizations rarely end one idea cleanly and begin another overnight. They adapt. The Pyramid Age seems to have done exactly that. Some later monuments kept the form at reduced scale. Others carried forward its symbolism in altered ways. The Great Pyramids at Giza therefore belong not only to a peak, but to a long arc of experimentation and redefinition. Their era faded by stages, which gives the tradition a quieter and more haunting kind of ending. Foreign visitors have reimagined the pyramids for thousands of years. The pyramids did not become mysterious only in modern times. For thousands of years, outsiders have approached them with awe, confusion, fury, and imagination. Each age has projected something onto them. Some saw royal tombs. Some saw treasure houses. Some imagined hidden wisdom, ancient science, or forgotten revelations locked in stone. That long chain of reinterpretation is fascinating because it shows that the pyramids have never belonged to one fixed meaning in the wider world. They attract new stories as naturally as they attract wonder. Even when people misunderstood them, those misunderstandings became part of their history. The monuments were not only built in antiquity, they were continually rebuilt in the imagination of later cultures. That is one reason they remain so powerful. They generate explanations as quickly as they resist them. Every generation arrives hoping to decode them. Every generation leaves behind a new layer of mystery, admiration, or myth for the next to inherit. Greek writers helped make Egypt mysterious long after the pharaohs. Long after the age of the pyramid builders had passed, Greek writers helped shape how later worlds imagined Egypt. Their accounts mixed observation, hearsay, admiration, and misunderstanding, creating a picture that was vivid, influential, and often deeply mysterious. That matters because for many later readers, Egypt arrived through those voices. The pyramids became part of a story told from outside, filtered through curiosity and distance. Some details were valuable, others were distorted. Yet together they helped establish Egypt as a land of marvels, secrets, and immense antiquity. That legacy lasted for centuries. Once the pyramids entered classical writing, they began to live not only in stone, but in literature, travel, law, and cultural imagination far beyond the Nile. The Greek view did not define the pyramids completely, but it gave them a second life in the minds of others. From then on, mystery was not just part of the monuments. It was part of their reputation too. Medieval travelers entered the pyramids and left stories half believable. By the medieval period, the pyramids had already become ancient beyond easy memory, and travelers approached them with wonder, suspicion, and second-hand lore. Some entered dark passages and described heat, bats, narrow climbs, and hidden chambers with a mix of honesty and exaggeration. Their accounts can feel oddly vivid one moment and wildly unreliable the next. That is exactly what makes them fascinating. These writers stood much closer to worlds of legend than to modern archaeology, so the pyramids became places where observation and imagination easily merged. A sealed room might become a treasury. An empty chamber might become proof that something marvelous had already been taken. Even the stakes are revealing, because they show how powerful the monuments seemed to people who did not fully understand them. Medieval stories do not simply tell us about the pyramids. They tell us what it feels like to encounter something so old and immense that certainty begins to loosen its grip. Treasure hunters, scholars, and dreamers all searched the same stone. Few places have drawn such different people toward the same goal. Treasure hunters came hoping for gold, hidden chambers, and objects of immense value. Scholars came for evidence, measurement, and understanding. Dreamers came with visions of lost wisdom, secret knowledge, or meanings buried deeper than the visible stone. What unites them is striking. They all believed the pyramids contained more than they first revealed. That shared conviction gives the site a strange continuity across centuries. Motives changed, methods changed, and ideas changed, yet the pull remained. One person looked for riches. Another looked for truth. Another looked for mystery itself. The pyramids could absorb all three desires without ever quite satisfying any of them. That is part of their power. They are stone enough for engineers, history enough for scholars, and silence enough for dreamers. Few monuments can support such different kinds of searching while still keeping their center hidden from everyone alike. Early explorers often damaged what they hoped to understand. That is one of the saddest truths in the history of pyramid study. Many early investigators were genuinely curious, yet their methods could be forceful, hurried, and destructive. They blasted through masonry, widened passages, removed blocks, and disturbed spaces that had survived for ages. To them, opening the monument often mattered more than preserving its original condition. The result is a bitter irony. In trying to uncover answers, they sometimes erased the very evidence needed to reach them. A broken wall can reveal one thing and destroy three others. A chamber entered too roughly may surrender an object while losing context forever. This is what makes the history of exploration so complicated. Admiration and damage often arrived together. The pyramids inspired wonder, but they also suffered from it. Every later generation had to inherit not only the ancient monument, but the scars left by people who loved the mystery enough to violate it. Modern scans now search for voids without breaking the walls. That shift feels almost revolutionary in the history of pyramid exploration. For centuries, people often assumed that answers had to be forced out of stone through tunneling, breaking, and direct intrusion. Now, modern techniques can search the hidden spaces while leaving the monument intact. That changes both the method and the mood. The pyramid can be questioned without immediately being wounded. Scanning technologies allow researchers to look for density changes, internal gaps, and unexpected structures in ways that respect the monument far more than earlier approaches. There is something deeply satisfying about that. One of the oldest buildings on Earth is being studied with tools subtle enough to match its dignity. The mystery remains, but the relationship has changed. We no longer have to choose so sharply between curiosity and preservation. The hidden interior can be probed with patience rather than violence. In a sense, the modern search is becoming clever enough to deserve the monument it studies. Muon technology revealed a vast hidden space inside the Great Pyramid. Few recent discoveries at Giza have carried such immediate shock. By tracking muons, tiny particles that pass through stone from cosmic rays, researchers detected a large, unexplained void inside the Great Pyramid. The method itself sounds almost dreamlike. The sky helped reveal what the stone concealed. Instead of digging, scientists read subtle differences in how particles moved through the monument's mass. The result was extraordinary. Inside one of the most studied buildings in human history, there appears to be a major hidden space still not fully understood. That discovery matters for more than its novelty. It proves the pyramid can still surprise us at scale. This was not a minor crack or a small overlooked niche. It was a significant internal feature hidden in plain invisibility for millennia. Few moments restore wonder so quickly. Just when people think the Great Pyramid has yielded most of its secrets, it produces a new chamber-sized question from its silent core. That newly detected void still resists any easy explanation. The discovery of the void was dramatic enough. The fact that it remains unexplained makes it even more compelling. No one can yet say with confidence whether it is a relieving space, a construction gap, a hidden corridor, or something more unexpected. That uncertainty is exactly why the finding has such force. If the answer were obvious, the mystery would already feel smaller. Instead, the void sits in a strange and exciting state between detection and understanding. We know something is there, but we do not yet know what role it played. That leaves room for caution, debate, and renewed imagination. It also reminds us that discovery is not the same as comprehension. A new space inside the Great Pyramid does not automatically reveal its purpose. It simply enlarges the map of the unknown. In a monument famous for keeping its meanings close, even a confirmed hidden volume can remain stubbornly silent about why it was ever made. New discoveries at Giza often deepen the mystery, not settle it. That is one reason the site remains so captivating. At many famous places, new findings gradually reduce uncertainty and make the broad picture clearer. At Giza, discoveries often do something stranger. They answer one question, then open 3 more behind it. A worker settlement clarifies labor, yet raises new questions about organization and daily life. A scan reveals a void, yet leaves purpose unsettled. A mark connects a monument to a king, yet leaves method and meaning still unresolved. This pattern gives Giza its special tension. Knowledge grows, but mystery does not shrink in proportion. Instead, it changes shape. The site keeps moving beyond whatever explanation seemed most secure a moment earlier. That can be frustrating for anyone who wants final answers, but it is wonderful for anyone drawn to the unknown. Giza behaves less like a solved puzzle and more like a landscape where every fresh light casts a new shadow just beyond it. Even now, the plateau may hold buried structures in silence. For all its fame, Giza may still be hiding architecture below sand and rubble. That possibility is thrilling because it means the plateau is not merely a stage for the monuments we already know. It may still contain chapels, walls, work areas, tombs, or other installations waiting in silence beneath the surface. Over thousands of years, wind, collapse, reuse, and shifting ground could easily bury traces of important spaces. The desert does not only erase, it also stores. That double role gives the plateau a peculiar feeling. What looks empty may not be empty at all. It may be layered. Archaeology at Giza therefore carries a special charge. Researchers are not only revisiting known monuments, they are testing the possibility that the famous landscape remains incomplete to us. Even now, the ground itself may be withholding pieces of the larger design. The plateau can feel fully known from afar, yet still unfinished beneath our feet. Desert sands protected clues and also hid them for ages. Sand is one of the great paradoxes of Egypt. It can bury, erase, and obscure. Yet it can also shield fragile remains from weather, reuse, and casual destruction. Around the pyramids, that double power has shaped what survives and what disappears from view. A structure swallowed by sand may vanish from memory while quietly remaining intact below. A surface exposed too long may suffer worse damage than one hidden for centuries. That is why the desert feels almost like a second curator of the site, though an unpredictable one. It conceals and preserves by the same act. This makes excavation especially dramatic. To remove sand is not simply to clear away emptiness. It is to test whether the desert has been guarding something. Many clues at Giza owe their survival to burial, while many mysteries owe their persistence to that same burial. The sand has both protected the past and postponed our encounter with it. The Sphinx and the pyramids together create an even larger puzzle. Either one would be enough to fix Giza in the human imagination forever. Together, they create something larger than either monument alone. The pyramids speak of kingship, death, scale, and precision. The Sphinx adds a different kind of presence, one more enigmatic, more watchful, and more difficult to classify in simple terms. Its great human-headed face and leonine body complicate the plateau's meaning. Suddenly, the site is not only about burial architecture. It is also about guardianship, symbolism, and a monumental image whose exact role still invites debate. When the Sphinx is set beside the pyramids, Giza feels less like a collection of structures and more like a composed mystery landscape. Different forms of power are sharing the same horizon. Stone mountain, stone face, royal tomb, and possible guardian all coexist in one setting. That combination is why the plateau can feel so overwhelming. It does not offer one mystery. It offers several, standing side by side. Some see a grand master plan linking monuments across the plateau. To many observers, Giza feels too ordered to be accidental. The placement of pyramids, temples, causeways, and the Sphinx can create the impression of a single vast design unfolding across the plateau. In this view, the monuments are not merely neighbors. They are parts of one integrated vision, tied together by symbolism, sightlines, and royal intention. That idea has real appeal, because the site does feel composed on a monumental scale. It invites the mind to search for unity. Was there a grand design linking the whole plateau from the start, or did later additions create the appearance of one? The question remains alive because both the order and the uncertainty are genuine. Some relationships seem too strong to dismiss. Others may tempt us toward patterns that were never fully intended. Even so, the master plan idea continues to fascinate because it treats Giza not as separate monuments, but as one enormous thought written across stone and ground. Others believe the layout grew through practical choices and tradition. Not every explanation of Giza needs a single sweeping blueprint. Some scholars see the plateau as the result of accumulated decisions shaped by custom, terrain, royal precedent, and practical needs. In that view, the striking order of the site may have emerged gradually, rather than through one master design fixed from the beginning. This idea is fascinating because it makes the landscape feel more historical and less programmatic. A king builds with one set of aims. A successor responds to the same sacred ground, the same traditions, and the same practical constraints, then adds something new. Over time, coherence grows through repetition and adaptation. The plateau becomes ordered not because one mind planned everything at once, but because generations worked within a shared cultural logic. That interpretation does not reduce the wonder. It changes it. Giza then becomes a living architectural conversation across reigns, where practicality and tradition could produce a grandeur that later looks almost perfectly deliberate. Fringe theories flourish because the pyramids still feel beyond expectation. That may be the simplest reason they attract so many extraordinary claims. The pyramids are real, measurable, and undeniably human in context. Yet they still feel larger than ordinary expectation allows. When something seems too precise, too vast, or too enduring for casual modern intuition, fringe theories rush in to fill the emotional gap. That does not mean the theories are sound. It means the monuments are powerful enough to provoke them. A structure this astonishing invites explanations as dramatic as the feeling it produces. Lost civilizations, vanished technologies, secret wisdom, hidden energies, all of these flourish where awe outruns patience. That pattern tells us something important. The pyramids do not only challenge evidence, they challenge imagination. People often want an answer equal to their sense of wonder, even if the real answer is disciplined human labor over long periods. Fringe ideas thrive because the monuments still make many people feel that ordinary history cannot possibly be enough. Atlantis, lost wisdom, and forgotten ages often gather at Giza. Few places attract stories of vanished civilizations as strongly as the pyramids. Giza has become a meeting point for ideas about Atlantis, prehistoric knowledge, forgotten sciences, and hidden chapters of human history. These theories differ, but they share a mood. They treat the plateau as evidence that something immense has been lost, not just buried. That is part of their appeal. The pyramids already feel like survivors from another world, so it becomes easy for imagination to place them in a larger, vanished drama. Yet even when such ideas go far beyond evidence, they remain culturally revealing. They show how strongly Giza stirs the sense that human history may once have held more than we remember. The plateau becomes a screen for deep speculation about memory itself. Why do these monuments feel so ancient, so complete, and yet so difficult to settle into ordinary history? That question keeps drawing lost ages toward them like iron filings toward a magnet. Alien ideas persist because wonder sometimes rushes ahead of evidence. The pyramids are among the most famous targets of ancient alien speculation, and the reason is not hard to understand. Many people see the scale, precision, and endurance of the monuments and feel a jolt of disbelief. From that feeling, a leap is made. If the achievement seems too great for ancient people, then perhaps non-human help must be imagined. The problem is not the wonder. The wonder is appropriate. The problem is the impatience. Astonishment arrives instantly, while evidence demands slower attention to labor, engineering, administration, and time. Alien theories thrive in the gap between those two speeds. They turn amazement into explanation before the real work of understanding begins. That is why they persist. They offer a quick answer equal to the emotional impact of the monuments. Yet in doing so, they often erase the very human accomplishment that makes the pyramids so extraordinary in the first place. Wonder deserves better than a shortcut. Yet the real human achievement may be more astonishing still. There is something deeply moving about refusing the easy escape into fantasy and facing what humans may actually have done here. A society using ancient tools, organized labor, patient measurement, and immense determination raised monuments that still trouble modern confidence. That truth can feel more astonishing than any fringe theory because it asks us to enlarge our respect for the ancient world. We do not need lost continents or visitors from the stars to explain why the pyramids feel overwhelming. We need to take human ability more seriously. The real achievement includes logistics, design, quarrying, transport, planning, food supply, symbolic thought, and generations of accumulated skill. That is not less magical than a fantasy answer. It is more so because it happened. Real people imagined this scale, solved these problems, and left behind something so powerful that many still struggle to believe it. Sometimes the most mind-altering answer is the one already standing in plain sight. The pyramids show how much ancient minds could do with patience. Modern life often associates greatness with speed, machinery, and sudden innovation. The pyramids suggest another path. They show what happens when observation, planning, repetition, and patience are sustained over long periods with unusual discipline. That lesson can feel almost shocking now. Ancient minds, working without modern devices, could still produce structures so ambitious that they continue to dominate conversation thousands of years later. Patience here was not passive. It was active, organized, and exacting. Measurements were repeated. Materials were moved. Courses were set. Systems were maintained. Year after year, attention accumulated into monumentality. That is what gives the pyramids their special kind of inspiration. They are not only symbols of power, they are proof that sustained human focus can create things that outlast empires. In that sense, the monuments do more than preserve ancient Egypt. They preserve a forgotten confidence in what careful minds, working steadily together, are capable of bringing into the world. Their mystery survives because stone lasts longer than explanation. Every age tries to explain the pyramids in its own language. Some explanations are careful. Some are imaginative. Some are wildly wrong. Yet the stone remains while each interpretation grows old around it. That is part of why the mystery survives so well. The monuments endure with a physical authority, but no theory can fully match. A written account may fade, a fashionable idea may collapse, but the pyramid keeps standing in the same light, asking the next generation to try again. There is something beautiful in that imbalance. Explanation is temporary. Stone is patient. Over time, the monuments outlive certainty itself and turn even confident conclusions into one more historical layer. This does not mean nothing can be known. Much can. It means the known never completely exhausts the object. The pyramid remains larger than the words placed around it. That is why mystery survives. The stone keeps its own counsel long after explanations have begun to age. Every generation finds new questions waiting in the old chambers. That may be the most remarkable thing of all. The pyramids do not remain fascinating only because ancient questions endure. They remain fascinating because new questions keep appearing as tools, ideas, and priorities change. One generation asks who built them. Another asks how labor was organized. Another asks what hidden spaces remain. Another asks how the site was experienced, remembered, or transformed over time. The chambers do not change, yet the questions do, and that keeps the monuments perpetually alive. They are old enough to be ancient, yet open enough to feel unfinished in thought. This is why the pyramids never become merely historical. They keep renewing themselves as objects of inquiry. Each age enters them carrying different hopes and different methods, and each age comes away with a fresh set of uncertainties. The chambers remain old. The wondering remains new. Few places hold that tension so well between permanence in stone and movement in human thought. The pyramids still feel unfinished because their secrets are not done. That feeling is part of their power. The monuments are physically complete enough to dominate the horizon, yet mentally incomplete enough to keep drawing us back. We know a great deal, but not enough to close the case. Hidden spaces may remain. Meanings remain layered. Methods are still debated. New technologies continue to test the interior without exhausting it. That leaves the pyramids in a rare state. They belong to the ancient world, but they do not feel fully past. They still generate discovery. They still resist final explanation. In that sense, they feel unfinished, not because the builders failed, but because the conversation around them never reaches an end. The stone is settled. The mystery is not. That tension gives the pyramids their enduring atmosphere. They stand there as completed monuments and incomplete understandings at the same time. We keep arriving, asking, measuring, and imagining, and the secrets still seem to be waiting just ahead of us. As we come to the end of our journey tonight, the pyramids feel no smaller than they did when we began. If anything, they seem larger now. We have wandered through hidden chambers, vanished rivers, buried boats, worker villages, lost casing stones, strange alignments, painted marks, silent passages, and new voids still waiting in the dark. We have traced the lives of kings, builders, priests, robbers, travelers, scholars, and dreamers, all gathered around the same ancient stone. And still, the pyramids remain just beyond our full understanding. That may be part of their lasting power. They rise from the desert like answers that became questions. Their edges catch the last light in the mind. Their chambers hold their silence. Their passageways seem to lead not only inward, but backward into time and outward into wonder. The more we learn, the more the mystery changes shape and waits for us again. But for now, there is nothing more you need to solve. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breathing find its own slow rhythm. Allow the great weight of the day to settle and drift away. The stones can keep their secrets until morning. And if you have enjoyed this wandering through ancient questions, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a comment, or share this video with someone who might like to drift off beneath the same old mysteries. And if you're still awake in a moment, there will be another journey waiting for you on the screen. Until then, leave the pyramids under the stars. Let the desert grow still. Let the corridors grow distant. And let your mind move away from the ancient world into rest. Sleep well and good night.